It's showtime. I got to mute you, Ed. There you go. Now you're unmuted.
Okay, we're live.
We're live. You're not in the bear rug room?
No, that's my bedroom.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you ever consummate bringing home the bear skin rug?
I didn't. So I'm gonna just for the fact of it. But it's like I always envision because I'm not a bear hunter, but I always envision like a bearskin rug is like thick, like heavy fur,
Yeah.
you know, but it's really not as thick and like luxurious as I had imagined.
That's it. That bear came from way down in New Mexico. I mean, he
Yeah,
was pretty
maybe you got
far
to
down.
get up in Canada to get one of them kind of
Man,
bears, I guess.
those suckers up in Montana and Idaho are woolly. You
Yeah,
know.
that's what I always kind of had in my mind of a bear rug was like, you'd sink down in that thing. But like I said, I'll do it just to say I did it.
So
but it,
Mark Booth has got a black bear he killed down in Georgia, and it's full mount in his house. He's got Southern Hound Hunting magazine, and we were down there doing a Freedom Hunters event, and went over to his house, and I looked up that bear, and I was like, that thing doesn't have any hair on it. I mean, it's just real short and thin, and you can
yeah,
really see the build of the bear. It's a good sized bear. It's a nice bear, but the difference in the hair from even there to Virginia, and then you get up into Wisconsin and Maine and the Rockies, and man, those guys out in the Rockies and up they'll tell us that we don't have any hair on our bears back here.
oh, dude, have you talked to Tanner about his bear mount?
No.
So Tanner sprung for the full body mount, and that dude screwed it up.
Really.
It's bad.
I'm gonna be honest, when you guys said you're hauling them back to Oklahoma, I was a little bit worried.
Yeah, I mean the guy said he'd done bear before, and he's a good guy, and he did good on mine. I don't have any complaints about mine. But he ordered. It's very obvious. Like he ordered two. He underestimated the size of Tanner's bear,
Mm-hmm.
so he like put it over the form, and then towards the ass of the bear, when he realized the hide was too big, he just folded it. So there's like
Do what?
he folded the fur, and the thing is tiny. Like Tanner's was a little bit bigger than mine. They were body wise, they were both pretty close to the same size.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, Tanner's full body mount looks tiny. I mean,
Yeah, Tanner's bear was a bruiser. Do you guys get the skulls back?
yeah.
Have you
I keep asking Tanner if he's done measurements on it, and he hasn't.
that skull's going to be close? I think what is it? 21 inches? Is that what I told you for a Boone and Crockett?
Oh, that sounds about
I'm gonna
right.
look it up. Look it up.
Like mine and Tanner's bears were body wise pretty close to the same size, but the head on his bear was just huge, like a time and a half as big as the head, on the one that I got. So yeah, you need to message Tanner, or if Tanner's listening, measure that thing because it very well could be Boone and Crockett.
Yeah, I'm gonna look. I'm pretty sure it's 21 or maybe 22. Let's look here.
And what's that measurement you're referring to?
It goes from the front to the back and then side by side. It's got to be both managements together. Um,
Well, I mean,
I'm looking here.
we threw a case trapper between his eyes, and it wasn't even close.
Say that again.
I said we put a case trapper between Tanner's bear's
Oh yeah,
eyes, and it wasn't even didn't
yeah,
even begin.
yep. Let's see here. I'm not searching this the right way. somebody watching probably already knows. If you know what it is, go ahead and pipe up, man, because I can't remember.
Yeah, the bear that Tanner got in New Mexico was
20 inches.
It had
Black
a damn
bear is
head.
20 inches.
It had a damn head like a grizzly bear.
Yeah, I mean it was impressive. I probably got a picture of it. If I don't, I'll put it up there. I can get it up pretty quick. Cause so does the head look good on it?
The head looks good. It's just that he undersized the mount, so it looks like a small Oklahoma bear, which it's not.
If you get somebody like, have you ever looked at Mark Dufresne's work? He's out of Maine.
No.
Mark's been on the podcast a couple times, but that guy's like one of the best I've ever seen on bear. And his work, when he gets a bear like that, he doesn't even mess around with trying to fit it to a form. He already knows that he's got to build that form.
Yeah.
And so he builds the form out to
fit it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals where
I'm getting distracted. I'm having freaking senior moments.
Keep looking. So it's one of those deals like, I know that Tanner would 100% agree with me, but if the dude we took those bear to would have called him and been like, dude, I ordered a form that's way too small,
Right.
And it's going to be an extra, I don't know, $200 or whatever. If I order a, bigger form, you good for that? I know, 100%.
Tanner would have been like, yeah.
Hell yeah, order a form that fits that thing. Like, I want it good. It's my first bear. I want an impressive mount.
Yeah.
But, there's always next year. But, for New Mexico,
there's only one first, man. There's only one first bear,
There's only one first, and Tanner got a hell of a first in New Mexico, I think.
Yep. Let me see. I'm going to try to find it. I don't know where it's
looking.
at.
I'm going to look.
Yeah.
We got a couple comments. I'm going to throw them up here.
What the heck's a fart squirrel?
Yeah, what is a fart squirrel?
2 fart squirrels.
Yeah, tell us what a fart squirrel is. I like me some squirrels.
Yeah, I do too. There it is.
We got Memphis. We got Minnesota. We got Furby, Idaho. Yeah, Roy, I think, most forms are just kind of, whether you're talking bear, hog, deer, whatever, they're kind of a general form, and then, a guy will adjust them. I don't know that much about taxidermy, but
I'm curious about the remount thing. I think you can remount it. He should.
Yeah, I had thought about that.
As long as the guy tanned the hide. I mean, if he just dry cured, I don't know. I don't know what he. It's hard to say. Here's a picture of Tanner's bear.
Look at the head on that thing.
Yeah,
it's huge. Yeah,
that's a full size. That's a full size Leatherman between there. But this is the part that impressed me from the end of the snout to the base of the skull. I mean, that he even had that big. Look at the hump on his back.
Yeah,
he wanted to be a grizz.
Yeah,
he was a wannabe.
He didn't run like a grizz, but he was built like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, that was a good bear. I mean, it was my first one to see treed. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It
and that was the one when we were walking in, I walked in, I looked up, I was like, that is a good bear.
Yeah. So that bear only ran. What did he run?
He didn't run very far. We jumped him, and he went right up.
300-400 yards. I think he ran.
It was a
And
freak deal, man.
I kept thinking like, this is too easy. This ain't a bear.
Right. I think it's
And
about 6.
was it
I
6?
remember, because I looked at my Garmin. I said, that's 600 yards. And I said, that might be a lion because it didn't run very far.
Yeah, but it was like
Not
a
that-
really easy
Not that
walk.
some lions don't run a long way.
We just walked up a draw straight to him. But I remember when we got to the tree, Chris just kept saying, "Good bear, good bear."
Yeah. And those are the types of hunts that you don't want to take some newbie rookie that's been running his mouth on Facebook and saying hunting with hounds is easy. You want those guys to beat the brush and go, come out scarred and cactus thorns in them and ripped up pants and gutted at the end of the day.
And that one was pretty easy.
That one was simple. It was just like, that is not the one you want, for
It was too easy.
For some noob that has never chased dogs or hunted with dogs. You
was
want
too
them to
easy.
earn it.
Yeah, it was too easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was cool as hell. But I remember thinking like, this is too easy. Like, I want this to be harder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. Roy,
What do you
they
think
do.
What do you think Tanner's bear weighed?
I tell people all the time about New Mexico bears. A lot of times they've got good bone structure and different stuff, and they get big, but they don't pack on the weight like northern bears do.
I'm not
bears,
I'm not a judge of bear because it takes a bunch of bears to judge. But
body weight, he was probably he probably came in around 310. I would say he probably weighed about 310.
I was gonna guess 425.
Yeah, and I may be low because I always guess low.
Like pigs, I can pretty much, before we even flip it, as soon as we get there, I think I can usually get within 25 pounds. But
yeah, with a frame like that, the frame of that bear, if he would have been in like the Appalachian Mountains where he's had, just nonstop acorns and could run down and grab corn out of the field and stuff like that, he would have been a 480-pound class bear. I'm 450 class.
I still don't even know what them damn bears in New Mexico eat. I didn't see anything they could eat.
Yeah, a lot of berries, a lot of juniper berry. There was some live oak in the canyon across the creek.
True.
There was some live oak up in there, and the acorns were on. So, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, Roy, I don't really know. Like I say.
Yeah, Roy, 425. Roy's right. Anything over 400 pounds for Rocky Mountain stuff is. That's a bruiser. Wouldn't you agree? I'd say Roy would agree with that.
We're getting a fair amount of bear here in northeast Oklahoma. And usually, like when we get them on camera, they look like they're probably about 200, 225. This year, we have been getting some bear that are like noticeably bigger. Not as big as Tanner's bear, but for where we're at.
What do you think that is? You think it's?
That's the thing. So here in northeast Oklahoma.
What is it? What do you? Hey, what was that? What'd you just put in your mouth? I thought you were off the snuff.
Well, I'm partially off.
You told me the other day, you're like, I've been 2 months without snuff.
All I was, but every once in a while. But where we're at, like, it's perfect for bear. Like, there's food galore, So there's no reason why we shouldn't have 400-pound bear here in northeast Oklahoma. But yeah, like I say, we've been getting some bear on pictures that are noticeably bigger than the last couple of years.
I wish I had snuff.
Well, to me, it's a treat now.
Yeah. If I go with the treat, then I become an addict, crack addict again. So,
I'm the same way.
this is my theory on how many years have you guys started having bears come into that area? Like, how many years ago was it like unique to see a bear, and now, from talking to you, it's pretty commonplace.
Probably 10 year.
So here's a theory that Arkansas's have bear, right?
Yeah.
And Missouri, so those young male and female bears have been displaced by the bigger, older bears, and they got pushed up into Oklahoma, up there around your country.
That's one theory.
And so now, huh?
I said that's one theory.
So now they're starting to grow up. They're starting to get a little bigger.
So about 10 years ago, it was a Friday, and I had a local game warden come up to my shop. He pulled up there, and we were talking.
Hey, we got to put this up. Fart squirrels or skunks?
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Well, that is pretty
That's
good.
awesome. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So this game warden come by, and he was over the Cookson Refuge game area, and we were shooting the shit, and he come by to tell me, like, we were getting a bunch of hogs over there at Cookson. You ought to, get over there and hunt. And so we're outside talking, and I was like, what are you up to? And he's like, well, I'm getting ready to head to Arkansas. I'm like, what are you doing in Arkansas? So I'm going to go over there and meet with their game wardens that are kind of over their bear population. Kind of get some information from them, whatever. I swear to God, the very next year, that's when we started getting pictures of a bear, people sighting bear. Up until that point, like, you never even heard of a bear over here. And I swear to God.
So you think the game wardens transplanted bears?
Rattlesnakes
And what else are they? Mountain lions, Bigfoot? What else they transplanted there?
No, I'm 90% sure. I mean, if it would be a huge coincidence that he goes and meets with Arkansas's bear people, and then the very next year we start getting pictures of bear.
I don't think so.
You don't think that's
No, I don't think that. No, I think I think they knew that they had bear there.
Maybe.
And, I mean, do you think they trucked them up there in like black helicopters or?
I wouldn't say black helicopters, but
no.
I mean, that's that's you bring up a valid point. I mean, maybe it's that the wildlife department started getting information about bears in North Oklahoma.
It's like we better get shit together on this stuff.
So they went to Arkansas, got information from their people, and it just organically happened. But
yeah,
it could go the other way too.
All right, we're gonna have a little fun here. John Hall sent me this, and we're gonna have a guess the weight contest. John, don't weigh in because I have a feeling he probably knows. But we got some bear hunters in here. Roy Faraby's in here. I don't know who else is in here.
That's a pretty thick bear.
He's pretty thick. He's got a good neck on him, doesn't he? It's hard to tell, just because it's kind of quarter in two. I don't know.
John knows the weight?
I don't know, but that's a Florida bear. It's a Florida bear. And usually when you see a Florida bear that looks like this, I mean, that looks like a good-haired, thick-haired bear. But a lot of that's body.
Yeah, you got to think in Florida, they're not going to have a coat.
I mean, look at the temperature on it. It's 91 degrees. It's on the 3rd of July. So he's got his summer hair on, and he's that thick.
I'm going to go, I would have gone, earlier in this conversation, would have gone a lot higher, but I'm going to go 364.
Look how short his muzzle looks.
Yeah.
But it's thick. How small. It's thick. I mean, he's got a muzzle on him like a bulldog, pit bull. Look how thick his legs are, and how thick they are all the way down to the ground. Lighter weight bear usually is
kind of dog.
Yeah, yeah, they look a little more dog-like. Let's see what we get. Hey, everybody's listening. Put your comments, guess the weight, and put it in the comments. I want to see what everybody's guessing on this thing. John, I hope you know what this bear weighs. He already said he doesn't know.
Oh, well then that ain't no fun. I'm 364. What's your guess, Chris?
Are we doing Price is Right rules? Or are we closest without going over?
Yeah, you can't go over. $1.
What was yours? 364?
Yeah.
That's a big bear. But man, they're deceiving.
He's bulky.
Yeah. I'm trying to look at him better. I'm trying to look at the vegetation around him and stuff and try to get some.
But he's kind of short.
I'm gonna go 386.
Yeah, he's not
390. I'm gonna go 390.
390.
390.
He's not got a real long body.
No. He's just thick, but his belly's a little bit high off the ground. The camera angle's kind of going down on him because you're seeing the top of his back, and his belly's not sagged down. I don't know.
That's where hogs get you. Is that
we got some guesses coming in.
throw them up there?
Yep, Roy says 480 in summer weight.
I think summer weight is year round in Florida.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, I got a friend in Florida who hog hunts, and it'll be like December, and he'll be sending me stuff, and it'll be like 92.
Andy Williams says 425. And then Roy says 520 in the fall. But again, it's kind of like all year round down there as far as food source, so it's something to consider. Here we go. Here's a good question. Do you think Florida bears hibernate like bears up north? Man, I wish I knew the answer to that, because but is it relative? That's the thing. Is it a relative temperature where they go to ground? Food source is scarce in Florida in the middle of winter, and that's the whole reason why they do hibernate. And it's not actually a true hibernation. I forget the scientific term. If Seth was here, we'd have this wrapped up.
If they do hibernate, I'm sure it's for a much shorter period. I wish that my friend Sean Greenlee from Florida was on here, because he hog hunts, but he runs into bears quite often.
All through the winter?
I'm not sure about that, but I would imagine.
I wonder if it's relative. Like, how somebody that lives in Florida and gets down to 40 degrees and they're wearing a winter coat?
I don't know if it gets down to 40.
Yeah, up in the Panhandle it does.
Yeah,
up in the northern Florida it does.
Yeah, it might.
We went on vacation down there one time. Took the kids down for my dad he was a snowbird, had a place down there, and he wanted to take the kids to Disney World, and we went down, and I think it was right after Christmas. It was while they were on Christmas break, and it was like 50 degrees, and it was raining a little bit, and we're walking around this retirement community, and people are walking around in winter coats with their hoods up and shivering, and I just came from Indiana where it was like 25 degrees, and the kids were wanting to go to the pool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I lived in Hawaii for a year, and it would get to like 68, and I couldn't even believe that people owned winter coats, but they would pull them out at like 68 degrees.
Yeah, so that's why I'm wondering if it's relative.
I'm sure it is.
John says no. John says no, they don't hibernate in the wintertime. I bet they lay up. Depending on if you're down in the Everglades, and one of those bears down there probably doesn't have to. But up north in the Panhandle, I bet they lay up, don't they?
They probably lay up, but it's probably just out of instinct. Probably give it 50 or 100 years, and they probably won't even do it at all.
Preservation. torpor. Yep. Look at Andy coming through. Big brain Andy Williams. Torpor is what it's called instead of hibernation. So, and I wish I've listened to a bunch of different stuff and read stuff on this, but we didn't have bears, so bears wasn't in my college education, wildlife management stuff. But I do know that bears don't go into a true hibernation like a groundhog does or something like that. It's more of a deep sleep.
So, torpor is
I'm gonna look it
when
up.
they go into like a pseudo hibernation. What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. We've got the Googler right at our fingertips. Look at some of the comments while I'm working the Googler here.
Okay, we've got a long one here from Valley. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't really tell us much. Animals do cue off of temperature. Multiple species
Yeah.
cue off of temperature a lot more than I think we give credit to. So I could see bear that had been in Florida for 100, 125 years
Yeah.
adjusting to that temperature.
Let's
Because
see.
it really, I mean, the hibernation is really just they're just suiting their climate. So in a warmer climate, over time they're going to change.
All right. So here it is. Some species, can you see it?
Yeah.
Some species enter a stage of sleep called torpor or temporary hibernation, which is not as heavy as hibernation. Unlike hibernation, torpor is involuntary and lasts for just a few hours during the daytime. Both food availability and outside temperature influence torpor. And yeah, that's right, because like on warm days, bears will get up and walk around, whereas other animals that truly hibernate, they're not coming. They're not coming out of the den. They're sleepy by.
So basically bear, depending on the day, will kind of act almost like cold-blooded animals.
They'll definitely come out on warm days. I mean, like real warm days, that Indian summer day or the the real early spring days. You'll see them out walking around. Then you won't see them for a while because you have a cold front come back through, and they'll just get up and fuel the fire a little bit, add a little bit of nourishment, and then head back to the den, go back to sleep for a little bit longer. It's kind of like the way my wife sleeps. She gets up if it's too cold, she goes back to bed for a little bit.
Oh, I can do some sleeping in the wintertime.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. John's doing some homework here. We want to celebrate guys that are willing to do homework. Fish and Wildlife Commission says yes. You may also see it called denning, torpor, and carnivore lethargy.
I like that.
Yep.
Carnivore lethargy.
Yep.
I ate a big old steak. I want to go to sleep.
No doubt. One of the things that's cool about bears too is when they wake up, their guts are all messed up. So that's why they come out and they hit those avalanche slides and stuff, looking for that, and those little green up areas, those little areas, trying to look for that green vegetation, that fresh green vegetation, to get their system back working.
Yeah.
As soon as they get their digestive tract, their GI tract back in line, then man, they're smashing fawns.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're not much different. They're not much different than us. I do the same kind of thing. Like in the summer, I almost go vegetarian, and as soon as it starts getting cold,
You go vegan.
Not vegan, but vegetarian. But then in the winter, like, dude, I want meat.
Yeah, I like heavy food in the wintertime.
But in the summer, I don't really crave meat in the summertime.
Yeah. Like I don't eat chili in the summertime,
No,
My
you
wife can
can't.
fix a pot of chili anytime and eat it, and I'm like, it's not
No.
chili weather. Or a big
And-
pot of beans. Get a big pot of northern beans and put a big ham bone in them and let that sucker cook down and put a little
What are
starch in
northern
there.
beans? Are northern beans white beans?
Yeah, they're white beans.
Man, I can't do
I
white
can.
beans.
Every once in a while I do. I like pinto beans a lot.
Yeah, brown beans.
Yep, I like brown beans, but every once in a while a little bit of northern beans good for you.
See, that's like me. So like, in in the wintertime, I'm a hell of a cook.
Yeah,
Like I can cook food for cold weather. I can't cook food for warm weather with a darn.
it's grill out season. You get on that grill and
Heavy food. I cook heavy food.
yeah, me too.
Chili,
Lasagna.
meat, beans. I'm good at that winter stuff.
Yep. Yep. Have you ever crawled in a bear's den, Roy? Have you ever poked one, sharp stick, and woke it up to get those plots some action in the dead of winter? I did watch a video with Clay and Brent Reeves. They were out doing some bear research in the dead of winter. They were actually climbing some trees, found some bear dens in trees and stuff, and they videoed it. And those bears were awake. They weren't coming out of the den awake, but they were, they had to be tranked to make
That's
sure
what I mean.
that they
So
could
like
do the work.
a bear is a mammal,
Yeah,
but they kind of act like a reptile.
yeah,
It's like me and Tanner and Cody took a dog. I've been starting on coon. We took it out Sunday night,
yeah. This is an interesting thing too. We'll get back to it.
and we treed, and then we wounded the coon and got him to come down. But he come down and went straight into a hole that was at the base of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a real deep hole, but we could not get this darn coon to come out of this hole. And the dog going crazy trying to dig. And then finally, the coon stuck his head out of the hole after we poked it a bunch of times. And man, we had one of the best like coon dog fights you ever saw Sunday evening. It was great, dude. It fired that dog up like, man. Like so I was hog hunting this hound for quite a while, and so we did that, and then we got finished with that, and we got in the truck and moved to a different spot. And Cody was telling me, he's like, that dog has been on a bunch of hogs, but he's like, I've never seen her that fired up, He's
Yeah.
like, she's gonna be a coon dog, because he's like, I could just tell, like, she was more into that coon than she's ever been into a hog.
Yeah. Yeah, Roy's bringing some gold nuggets here. He's bringing some pearls of wisdom. They have a plug. I forgot about that, Roy, and that's why they eat that green, because the greens will interact with stomach acid and dissolve that plug, and they'll pass it, and then boom,
So they have a plug in their gut.
Yep. They got an anal plug right down the colon. It plugs it up.
Well, we don't need to get into all that.
Yep. It's raw dog, man.
It's raw
What do you
dog,
expect?
but I mean, let's keep it at least R-rated.
We don't need to start talking about fecal matter.
Yeah, damn it, Roy. I'm talking about plugs.
I'm telling you what, man. I'm having some major. I've been all the crap that's going on. I've been in a foul mood. So if anybody's been following me on social media and I seem a little bit testy, been in a foul mood.
Yeah, so tell us about. So you dropped your dogs off in New Mexico because you knew life was getting hectic and you wanted to keep them hunting. So you dropped them off with
In July.
with Shorty to hunt. And then I don't even know the whole story, but so they had like a snowstorm up there and your dogs got stuck and no one could get to them?
Yeah, so here's the breakdown on all that. the wife had a major surgery August 16th, which is the opener for bear season, New Mexico bear season. I'm normally there with Hunter Meekum and Wade Hollerman and Shorty, and we got hunters in, and we're just bear hunting, having a great time. Well, this year, I don't know how far I want to go back in this story. We knew that this surgery was going to happen, and she was planning it back in the spring.
She needs to plan that earlier.
Well, here's the deal. This was the fight this was not the shining moment as the husband, okay? I mean, it's a major surgery. She had her colon removed. And since Roy already breached the sacred topic there about plugs and stuff, what they do when they take your colon out, it's a major surgery. She was in surgery for like 6 hours. But they also, and my wife's gonna kill me if she won't watch this.
Nah.
But it's all medical, okay? It's just, you can look it up. But
this is not sexual. It's medical.
Yeah. So they do what's called a Barbie butt on you when they take your colon out. They actually go into I'll even use the medical term, the gluteus fold, which is your butt crack, and they fillet the epidermis off, and then they sew that together and just totally seal that up.
They sew your butthole short.
You have none.
Yeah.
You go from having like a 1.5-inch butt crack to like a 1/2-inch butt crack, because they suture that all together and let that all heal back together, and the muscles stay separate, but it all comes together. Because I didn't understand it. It's like, what do you mean it's going to take that long to heal up down there? Because I've gutted a lot of deer, and I could whip stitch that sucker and, from the inside, and you'd be good. And he's like, the doctor's like, no.
Yeah, like a prolapsed cow. You just throw stitches in there.
Yeah. Well, they want that to be sealed up to make sure that you don't prolapse later on, and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's been major. So she was planning that back in the spring. Yeah. Cass River's like, yeah, she's going to kill you. And she might be watching too. I don't know.
We're talking.
We've talked. This is medical. This is medical.
Purely medical.
Yeah. So during the primary elections were in May, okay, and the doctor called while we're pulling out of. We just voted and we pulling out, and he calls her and he's like, "Hey, they're scheduling it," and it's like, we can do this June 17th or whatever it was. And I'm like, yes, yeah. That's the one we want, June 17th.
You don't want to seem too excited about it, but you're like,
yeah,
that'd be a good time.
That's a great time.
It wouldn't interfere with my bear hunting.
Yeah, yeah. And then the next thing they're on Bluetooth in the car there, and I can hear the whole thing. And they're like, well, the only problem is he's going to be out of the country. The doctor's going to be out of the country for the week after the surgery. And immediately she was like, no. This hospital stay was 10 days long for her after the surgery for recovery. And she didn't want to be in the hospital with some other person and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, when's the other date? And they said, well, we can get you on August 16th. And I felt like I'd been gutted right there in the car. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's a horrible.
You can't say anything.
And I'm just biting my lip. And I was like, I said, take the June date. And she's like, no, I can't. I don't feel comfortable doing that. And so she chose the August 16th date, and I was pissed off, but I was holding my tongue. She goes, I know you're mad. I was like, I'm not saying a word. She goes,
you were being you were being really optimistic, because you called me and you're like, she's going to do this on August 16th, but everything should go good and we should still be able to go bear hunting.
We should be bear hunting September 25th. Yeah, September 25th. We're good, man. We can do this.
And I told Tanner and Cody, I was like, There's a chance, but dude, I don't want to tell you guys to schedule off work yet
Yeah, yeah.
because I know how
So
that stuff goes.
getting back to the day that we got the bomb dropped on us, she's like, I know you're mad. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not happy, but you've got to give me a few minutes here. You've got to give me some time to process this. I know what is the most important thing here, but I've still got to process it. So we moved it to August 16th. She was in the hospital for 10 days. We have made, for a while, we were making weekly trips back and forth to Cleveland, which is 5.5 hours one way. And so those were 14-hour days, and this was weekly on follow-ups and different things. And now she's got to have this procedure. They've actually got to do another procedure because they have to repair. It's like getting wheels on your truck, new wheels on your truck, and then they ask you to stop by the shop after you got 1,000 miles on them so they can check the torque and stuff like that. Same kind of deal. It's like, hey, we gotta do a little tune up, and that dude's happening next week. So, and besides that, we decided to move. I've been landlocked in Indiana, and I knew, getting back to the main topic here, I knew that I was going to be locked down here in Indiana. So back in June, when I went out to the Paloma, I just left dogs out there so Shorty would have bear dogs on the ground for his bear hunters. And I thought, well, I'll just come out and get them when we hunt Gila in September, and everything will be good. So we went from that to what I just described with weekly stuff. September 25th comes and goes. It keeps going. And then 2 weeks ago, Shorty and I were doing Shorty Gorham's show on Sunday night, and he told me before the show, he goes like, hey, as soon as we're done, I'm gonna jump in the Peterbilt, and I'm driving to South Texas. I've got to get a load down there and pick up a load and bring it back. Well, while he was on the road, once he got out of here, boom, man, they got smoked by a snowstorm that set records up there. And so the way the ranch is laid out, Shorty lives right there at the ranch headquarters. And then the hired hand lives 6 miles away. And thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. I'm going to put up a little love for myself right here. So, and you're exactly right. I wrote an article.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'll comment on this as soon as I'm telling the story. Mario lives 6 miles away, and he lives over Trinchera Pass. It's not a big pass. It's not a dangerous pass, but it's a pass in the mountains. He literally could not get from his house to the ranch headquarters to take care of my dogs. We had the neighbor lady. Her name's Inga. She's a great lady. She's super nice. She takes great care of the dogs when Shorty's gone. We've had her take care of the dogs in the past. But all she's got is like a Subaru or a little Suzuki Samurai, and she couldn't get there. Mario had the road grader parked at his house because he knew the storm was coming in, so he could dig his way to there. But it didn't freeze underneath, so it was total mush underneath, and he was trying to push snow, and he was burying the road grader that had 6-foot tires on it. And so they saw him on Tuesday. On Thursday, we were talking, and we're like, hey, what's going on? Shorty's dogs are not in the dog yard with mine, but they were on self feeders, but we're still worried about water. Friday, tried to dig into them again, couldn't get to them. Finally, Saturday, we came up with a plan, and Shorty arranged the whole deal. The cattle contractor on that place flies the ranch a lot in a helicopter. They were actually going to fly a helicopter, the ranch helicopter from South Texas up there to fly Shorty in and just have him stay there. But Scott's helicopter was closer, swoop in, pick up Mario. He goes down. They just put the skids on the ground, just barely touching the snow, and Mario bails out and wades through the snow to get to all the equipment on the ranch. 400 yards from my dogs. Nobody was in 600 miles and 400 yards from them. There's snowmobiles. There's tracked up side by sides. There's all this equipment sitting in that barn. and nobody there could get to it until Mario flew in the helicopter.
Who provided the helicopter?
The cattle contractor, the guy that has the cattle grazing rights on the ranch, or had the grazing contract on the ranch.
I mean, that's got to be like you had to be on pins and needles.
I didn't know what was going on. They're talking about record snowfall. I'm like, holy crap. The story I kept thinking about was Eugene Walker in West Virginia left his dogs up at camp on self feeders and different things a few years. I remember him telling this story, and they got a real snowstorm in West Virginia. And he said, man, and he had a little A-frame camp up there and stuff. He just went down the mountain and got snowed out, and then the snow started piling up. Couldn't get back in there for 3 or 4 days, and got there. He said, man, when I got there, all those dogs were snug as they could be in those dog houses, and they tunneled their way out. And when I pulled in, they were as happy as they could be to see me, you know. And so that's what I was hanging on to. But daggone, I was worried. 3
That's
or
the
4
thing,
days
like-
without water.
So dogs can. It's a hard thing that we deal with, like conveying it to people that don't know. But like, dogs can deal with cold temperatures better than we can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a dog's standing body temperature is around 100, 101, quite a bit higher than ours.
Yeah. Yep.
So they can deal with cold temperatures. I mean, I'm not talking Alaskan Huskies, they're just cur dogs from the south. They can deal with cold temperatures better than we can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But as humans, we always put our emotions and feelings on those dogs.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that had to be like nerve wracking to know that your dogs are like stuck there by themselves.
Yeah. Yep. And they were all those little dog houses were completely snowed over. I've got some pictures of it, I think. Let me see.
I mean, the dog houses snowed over is actually a good thing.
Absolutely. That's old cold weather training right there.
Yeah. The snow can actually it's counterintuitive, but snow can be insulation. So if you're in a dry spot and you're covered in snow, the snow acts as insulation to keep you warm.
Have you ever had? I learned this in college. So we bought warm beer, and I stuck the beer in the snow, and it didn't get cold after like an hour. And you think you just go out and stick the beer in the snow, and it doesn't get cold.
Really?
Nope, it won't get cold. Because the snow's insulating it. And a buddy of mine who was an engineering student at the time, he said, "Where's that beer at?" I said, "I stuck it in the snow outside." And he's like, "You idiot! That's not going to get it cold." And he was right. It didn't. He brought a few of them in, and we put it on ice. Once you get them cold and put them in the snow, they'll stay cold because it'll insulate them that way too. But
I like warm beer in the winter anyway.
Oh, you're a traditionalist.
I like warm beer year round. Like, so if I'm like working at my shop late, even in the summer, and I'm like, I'm gonna be here for a while, and I'll go grab a 12-pack. Like, I don't even put it in the refrigerator. I just keep it out. Like, I kind of prefer beer room temperature.
No kidding.
Yeah. In the winter, I sure don't want it cold.
I don't know. Cold beer is cold beer, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's a summertime thing. Even in the summer, I don't care. Room temperature is good with me.
Yep. I'm importing a photo here of Diablo standing outside his doghouse so you can see the. Let's see here.
Yeah, but Andy, them brindle dogs aren't bred for the cold. They're bred for the
For
heat.
some reason, this is an HEIC photo. It's not going to come up. But yeah, there's just a little hole in front of the doghouse where all of them had dug their way out, and they were all in there. But let's get back to that comment where Michael, that the best comment we've had all night.
Which one was it?
Right here, where he's saying I'm a good dude.
Well, yeah. But seriously, like there comes and
Who's
that's
going to be
where,
hunting next year?
yeah. So
Hounds are
like,
going to come and go.
so for probably 10 years plus or so, like I've hunted with younger dudes. So like when I started hunting with them, they were all single, no family, and we kind of went back and forth with that a lot. I was like, uh, family comes first. Like there's gonna be times when I can't go because I got to do family shit. And they didn't get it at the time, but now they got families and they're getting it. You got to put
Yeah.
it all. It all has to be in perspective. Like you have to keep your life in balance.
Right.
Like I've known
I
plenty of
wrote an
guys.
article. I wrote an article for Southern Hound Hunting magazine, the first one I wrote for them, I think, and it was
Man, when are
about.
you, I've been trying to get you to write for Tuskers for like a year, and you won't do it.
I'm too good for Tuskers. I just wear the
Oh
hat.
my God!
I just wear the hat.
You wear the hat, but you won't write for us.
Every time you, all right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to send me the next deadline for Tuskers, and I'll write an
December
article
10th.
for it.
December 10th.
Now you're gonna make me put it on my calendar. I got to put it like a 2 week. December 10th. I'm gonna write a note right now.
You better write for us. I've been seriously trying to get you to write an article for a year, and you ain't done it. But you'll write for Southern Houndsman.
I write for Full Cry too. I've written for Bear Hunting magazine.
I don't want to hear
Anyway, the article I wrote was all about that. It was all about putting priorities first. The only reason I wrote the article is because I spent years of if you would go to you'd go to a family function, or the wife would tell me, it's like, hey, the kids have got a preschool thing on this evening. It's going to be on, let's pick a historic date for coon hunters in Indiana. I haven't missed an opening night of coon season in Indiana in over 40 years. It's November 8th. And it's like, don't plan anything that night. And so I went for years, and there was a time when I just didn't miss it. If it got dark, I was going. And one of the kids had something on opening night of coon season, and the whole time I was an asshole. I was like, when's this going to be over? I need to go hunting, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I'm in my 20s, And then God really played a trick on me, and guess who was born on November 8th? My grandson.
yeah.
My grandson's born on November 8th. So,
All the more reason to take him on the 8th.
absolutely, he is going to go coon hunting on his birthday when he's old enough to go. No doubt about it. He's going. And but the whole reason for the article is because I've lived through it and I've seen the sacrifices. I'm used to playing family vacations. It's like, hey, let's go to the Plot Sectional in Missouri. It's going to be a great time, And the kids had fun and they had built memories and stuff. But my poor wife, she would have rather gone to Disney, taking the kids to Disney World or something, or going on a beach vacation. I can't even get them to hunt now, because I had it so high on my priority list. And it's just you got to keep things good at home. And when you have things good at home, then I've left my house before arguing with my wife about whatever, money, whatever, and be like, "Well, I'm going hunting." And then when you're out there, I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah,
I'm wanting to beat the dog, and
yeah. It really. It really is about balance. And when we're dog people, and we put our priority there. And you don't get it when you're 25 or 35, but as you get a little bit older, you kind of realize, like, okay, these dogs ain't gonna change my diapers when I'm 95. But these kids
that's
might.
true. That's
So
true.
it's about balance between family and hunting.
Yeah.
Everything in life is about balance, and that's where I think the Chinese have it right with yin and yang. Don't want to get spiritual, but there's something to that. Like you got to keep everything
Mm-hmm.
balanced out,
Yep.
and family is more important than a bunch of shitty ass shit eating cur dogs.
Good family. You know, there's got to be a balance there. They need to have balance too. You know, that's the thing.
Yeah, and that's where
Uh,
I see a lot of so. So I mean, maybe like the last like maybe 15, 20 years, like I see a lot of younger guys coming up dog hunting and their women, their wives want to take a part in that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's not my thing. To me, hunting is kind of like guy time,
yeah.
but I also realize that it's not the same for some of these younger guys. But in that too, like so yeah, take your woman hunting, but there needs to be balance in that side of it too. Like sometimes it just needs to be the guys, you know.
Yeah, that's a really steep tradition in Appalachia. You know, the old time bear hunters and stuff. There were never any women on the mountain. Um,
It's kind of guy time.
yeah, and with everything going on in the world, and I'm not trying to get, I don't know, geopolitical here, but I've always enjoyed a life where my wife, she's only been hunting with me a few times, though, you know, and it's okay because she's perfectly happy doing woman stuff. She's proud of, and that sounded sexist right there for me to
No, it
say
didn't.
that.
It didn't.
Well, she is proud of the fact that she can have a freaking baby. She can develop a human being in her body,
Yeah, we can't
and
do that.
I can't do that. And
I can help. I can help, but after that, I'm not much
you
good.
know, she has no shame in that, and she's
No.
comfortable with that. She was a
Yeah.
stay at home mom, and she felt like her number one priority the whole time our kids were growing up was being a mom to her kids
Yeah, that's the way it
and a
should be.
wife to me. I can tell you that there was supper on the table every night. I'd be out working a night shift and stuff, and I could swing home and eat dinner because she was fixing food. And now that the kids are gone, I can't. I've got to hold a gun on her to get her to cook. But um, but that was there's actually a great. You already brought up the yin and the yang. You wanted to go spiritual, so here we are. Uh, if you look at Ecclesiastes chapter 31, it talks about the heart of a noble woman, and it talks about all the things that make. You should read it. I want to make sure I've got that right, but I think it's Ecclesiastes 31, and she fits the bill. You know, talking about the wisdom of a woman that knows what is important to her with her priorities right. She's got a better education than I do. Her dad uh, a steel construction company that he wanted her to move into and manage and stuff. And she's like, nope, I'm going to be a mom and I'm going to be a wife. And so you think I'm not, yeah, I was mad about taking a bear season off, but you think I'm not going to?
Yeah,
Come on, man.
and that's the thing. That's not. It's not sexist. Like
We've been told it's sexist. That's the
it's,
problem.
but it's not. It's not.
No.
Uh, same thing. Like with my ex-wife. Like me and her had problems. You know, obviously, but she was a great mother, and for that, to this day, she has a I wouldn't say better. I mean, yeah. I mean, she has a better relationship with our kids than I do.
My wife has a better relationship for
I mean,
sure.
that's just natural. If a woman doesn't have a better relationship with the kids than the husband does, then something's wrong.
It's Proverbs 31. I'm sorry. Proverbs 31 is the one.
But Andy said, "Happy wife, happy life." I don't adhere to that. Like, I
Here we
don't.
go.
I don't like that. it's a common theme that people say,
Yeah.
but I don't like it.
Why not?
Everybody has to be happy. The wife has to be happy. The husband has to be happy. The kids have to be happy. So, so I've seen plenty of young guys that hunted like crazy. They got married and they said, "Man, I can't go hunting." But them denying that part of their life that was hunting, it's a big part. You know, you're a man. Like it should be a big part. So if you deny that part of your life, are you going to be happy at home? Like when I text you and say, "Hey, me and so and so is getting ready to go all hunting. You going?" "Oh man,
Let
I
me
can't.
ask my wife.
I gotta stay at home. I gotta ask the wife." Are you going to be happy? Are you going to interact with those kids and your wife
Don't
positively?
you think sometimes though that's a cop out because
Sometimes it
sometimes it
is.
is.
Sometimes it is, but not all the time. I've known plenty of guys who I know for a fact they wanted to
Yep.
go hunting,
Yep.
but they didn't. And it wasn't a 4 times a week kind of thing. It was a once a week kind of thing. So if you're denying that,
Look at Andy. Look at Andy trying to stir the pot.
well, yeah, I mean that's and that's a valid argument. So like, so
If she leaves, I'm still gonna have dogs.
so I'm a single man. So like, if I was gonna get remarried, like it would be talked up front. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go hunting. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be there sometimes. And if that woman had a problem with it, then it wouldn't happen.
Right.
Because I don't think I can be a happy person if I deny that part of my nature.
Anybody that goes into a relationship thinking that they're going to be able to influence and change the person they're in that relationship with is starting out on the wrong foot. I mean, you just are. And I knew what I was getting into when I married her. I married a woman who right now at this point in her life lives 7 miles away from her mom. And that's the farthest she's ever lived.
That's pretty
When
dangerous.
when I moved or when I married her, if we were out doing whatever, she would call her mom and she would talk to her mom. And her mom's a great woman. And that's probably why I knew I was getting a good deal because I saw how her mom was. And so I knew that going in. But the flip side is she knew what she was getting into too, as well. I mean, I remember one time I got this bug about calling coyotes. I wanted to call coyotes with a mouth call and just whack coyotes. And I hunted I hunted 28 days straight every morning hunting coyotes. I'd get up in the morning and I'd be gone. I'd be out the door. And she's like, "Oh, you're going coyote hunting again." And but it was always like that. We always had that agreement. And so it's as long as I'm doing the things that I need to do and prioritizing things right, and then it all goes well. But if she feels like that, and she calls me out on it, if she feels like that I'm getting too far into the dog world and getting off center of what needs to go, she does a good job of keeping me balanced. She really
Yeah.
does.
So I mean, a good woman can do that. So we can get out of hand every once in a while. And
I can.
I
I
think that
most
we, yeah, I think that we need a female mate that can kind of keep us in check to a point.
Yeah.
But you struck on something there that my dad told me probably from the time I was 10 years old, and he harped on it, and he was like, "Before you get married, you take a strong look at that woman's mother because that's what she's gonna be."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there, 18, 19, 20, and you're thinking about getting serious with a woman, look at her mom because that's what she's going to look like. That's
I've
what she's
told
going
my
to act like.
I've told my son the same thing. I really have. He's had a few. He's 22, and I've told him it's like, do you want to? There's a couple things. How do you feel about her mom?
Yeah, because
I
that's
like
going
her.
to
I
be
like
her.
her mom. Okay, okay. Here's the second part of it. All right, son. Do you want say that you two end up having a kid together? Do you want your kid going to her mom's house? Would you feel comfortable with your kids at her mom's house
For a
without you
week.
there?
For a
When
week.
after yeah, when you if something happens and you guys split and now she's got custody of the kids and she's dragging them over to her mom's house, you feel good about that? If the answer is yes, then okay,
Maybe.
go for it.
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Factor it in.
Yep. All right,
Hit
I
some
got
of
it.
Chris, hit some of these questions. I'm going to go to the bathroom real
Okay.
quick because I'm
All right.
51 years old.
I'm 55. I should have muted his mic. Hey, Dakota, we're glad to have you here, man. I'm glad you stumbled onto the live, too. Come back. We do it every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, unless we don't. No, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you get notified when we're live. But most Tuesday evenings, we're on here live. So I want to read this because let me get this advertisement off of here. I want to read this passage from Proverbs 31. It starts 31:10 because I've read this several times for my wife, and it means a lot to me, and it describes my wife very well. It says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? Her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that she shall need no of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from the altar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength, and it strengthens her arms. She perseveres that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands on the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand on the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed in scarlet. She makes herself a covering in tapestry, and clothing in silk and purple. Her husband is known at the gates, where he sits among the elders of the land. She makes fine linen and sells it, and delivers girdles upon the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looks well on the ways of her household, and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. So, I can tell you, I can almost go through that thing verse by verse and give you examples of things that my wife does. So, I wanted to read that. That's the kind of woman that we should all strive to have.
You getting biblical?
You brought up the yin and the yang. I just brought the counterweight to that.
It's not really a counterweight. Christianity weighs in on that.
Yep. 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 Hey man, I don't know what else were we going to talk about tonight. We got pretty heavy right there.
Shit, we've talked about a bunch.
Yeah, we have. It's been a good conversation. Good interaction by everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, see, I'm not into that. So, like, that's what I was kind of saying. Like, so I appreciate a woman that can go hunting with me every once in a while. And I've done that, and it's a good time. But it's not what I want all the time. And part of that is like my generation. The younger generation kind of has a different take on that, and that's if it worked for them. That's great. It
Yeah,
doesn't.
if when I hunt in Virginia, a lot of times uh, the younger guys will have their wives with them and they'll have their kids in the truck. And that's all cool stuff. That works for them. When my daughter was growing up, she would go with me and we'd be in the mountains. And she drove a Toyota truck off. She drove a Toyota truck off the mountain. It was dicey too in the mud when she was 14 years old. You know, we had two trucks at the top of the mountain and we hiked it back up there and Scotty looked at her and he said, "Can you bring my truck off?" And she's like, "I guess." And she drove that truck off. That's all good stuff, but I get what you're saying because there's a lot of guys that are our age and older that just wasn't part of it. The women were happy to be there. Their celebration was when the men came back and they had fresh biscuits and a whole table full of food
Yeah.
and you know, it was glorious.
But I mean, I get it too because so I grew up in that atmosphere. You know that hunting was for men. I've got two daughters, and pretty much every time I was getting ready to go hunting, I would tell all my kids, my two girls and my boy, I'm like, I'm getting ready to go. Does anybody want to go? You know, they were all invited, and my girls would go with me, and I loved it when they said, "I want to go tonight." You know, and I genuinely loved when they went hunting with me. So I kind of, it's kind of like being stretched between two worlds. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm glad they went with me. It's a little bit different, at least for me, like kids, wife. But yeah, any kids want to go hunting, girls or boys, load them up and take them. And I would load my wife up anytime she said, "Yeah, you know, hey."
Yep.
It
I
only
went
happened
too.
only happened a few times where she was
Right.
like, "I want to go," but I was like,
Let's
"Sure,
go.
come on, let's go."
Yep.
You know, so I'm kind of
I was never that guy that stood back and was like, "No, this is men time. You're not going."
no, I would never tell my wife or my you know girls you can't go, but in the you know kind of in that same vein or opposite of that same vein, like I do like to just go hunting with dudes where you can be a little bit raw and crude. I mean, I like kids there. I'm never going to turn down a kid.
Right.
I'm never going to turn down a woman.
That's for sure. You
But
should.
well, some of them. But but you get what I'm saying? Like, but some of the younger generation, it's like uh, guys that are in their early 20s, mid 20s. I think like every time they go hunting, a woman has to be there with them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Look,
really get that.
look at this. Look at this. Look at this guy. Not just is he calling us old?
Cody is old school as they get. Cody's
But I think he's calling us old, not all, just y'all's age. That means we're old.
hey, I hunt with Cody all the time. I ain't
He
never
gets
seen
the Jackass Award this week for calling us
it.
old.
He does because I ain't never seen his woman go with us.
Cody, hippie stick Cody Jenkins.
Hippie stick.
That's his new handle. Is hippie sticks. He didn't know whether to be offended or laughed when I called those hippie sticks.
Hey, but I got it. I got to admit they did come in handy.
They did. So
brought
to give everybody an idea what we're talking about, we first time I ever met Cody was in the Gila in bear camp, and he was wearing pearl snaps and blue jeans and everything, and got this pack, and all of a sudden he whips out these expandable trekking poles that we call hippie sticks, and he's like trekking up the trail with these trekking poles, and I was like, what where'd you get those hippie sticks? And he didn't know whether to swart me with one of those things. I'm glad he didn't, or just laugh about it. It was hilarious.
I broke one of them.
Did you?
Yeah, he's gonna have to get some new ones. No, but I mean, Cody has told, Cowboy. I'm sure you hurt his feelings with the hippie stick.
Nah. He got used to it. It was good. It was good.
He was wearing boots. He wasn't in sandals.
That's right. What's that mean?
I don't know. Coons always everything carries disease. That's what they try to, like disease is like the big. I mean, we see it a lot in hog hunting.
Raccoon roundworm? That's been around for a long time.
Yeah, or rabies or whatever. They always try to scare us off of hunting with these diseases.
Yeah.
We're used to it.
I like this one. Yeah, Michael Smith. My wife makes about an hour and she's ready to go to the house. Yep.
So my ex-wife, we were together 25 years. I think she went hog hunting with me 2 times. The first time she went, my buddy Colby was running a dog from Louisiana that had been run on deer. And we turned loose. And the dogs were running something. They was running it pretty vocal. And they bayed. And we were sitting back in the truck, and I said, man, we're all sitting there in the truck, and I said, man, something just doesn't sound right. Colby's like, no, it sounds great. Let's go to him. So we start walking in there. And I remember I kept saying it over and over, something doesn't sound right. We got about 75 yards from the bay. And so we got bulldogs off the snap, and we're holding them by the collar. And I remember looking at Colby, and I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I'm sure. I was like, okay, turn them loose. We turn these 2 bulldogs loose, and we take off running. And my ex-wife's running behind us. And before we get there, we hear this deer squalling out. We get in there, and these bulldogs got this deer by the neck. And Colby doesn't skip a beat. He runs in there, pulls his knife, stabs this thing. Blood squirts all over his face. His face was covered in blood. And the deer got hung up in the fence. We dragged this deer out from the fence. And I remember I turned to my ex-wife, and she had this look on her face, just like, what in the hell? And I was like, this is not normal. This is this is the only time this has ever happened to me. We don't do this every time we go out.
Oh man. But he's right. My wife makes about an hour or 2 and then she's ready. And you got to be strategic. When that time comes up, it's like, okay, we'll just go make a drop here, and I'll drop you off at the house. Boom, done.
Yeah, and there's times, so we've taken people hog hunting, not women, dudes, that we don't particularly want to hog hunt with, but maybe it's their land or whatever. And we always say, man, if you guys ever want to go with us, just holler,
Yeah.
We're really thinking in the back of our heads, God, I hope they don't want to. But a few times they've been like, yeah, we'll go tonight. And we're like, oh, shit, And those are the nights where you hope that it's so if you're going to take your woman hunting, take her hunting where you walk 15 miles, up and down mountains, make it miserable as hell so she never wants to go again.
Oh, man. I remember the night I burned my son out. We were at plot days and we were coon hunting. We always showed up early. This is why my kids don't hunt anymore. Because I went at everything like it was killing snakes. We'd show up early and always pull in on Sunday. And the competitions didn't start until Thursday, but it was such a great time. Everybody was there, and we'd go out and we'd hunt in together in groups, and we'd turn a few dogs here, this drop, and then the next drop we'd turn somebody else's dogs loose, and then next drop we'd turn somebody else's dogs loose. Well, I had my son with me, and we really did have a good time. We pulled camper and stuff, just open the truck doors, set up the camper, and kids is just running wild. They'd be playing cards with Hoop Franklin and Tater and those guys, and it just never worried about where the kids were or what they were doing. And but the night that Jake got burned out, we were in Tell City, and we were out hunting that night. I was like, "You going with us?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going with you." Okay. We get in the truck, make the first drop, tree a coon, get back to the truck. Somebody else's turn, they tree a coon, and we're walking to every tree. It got to be about 1:30 in the morning, and we pulled in this lane. We're pulling back here, and he was always a kid that went to bed early. I mean, he was a kid that he would come out in the living room at 8 o'clock and say, "I'm going to bed now." Yeah. Like, okay, night. So it's 1:30 in the morning, and we pull in this lane, and as we're driving back in there, he's like, "Not again." And he just has a total meltdown. I was like, that's when I looked at him. I said, "You knew what you were getting into. If you don't like it, you stay in the truck." He's like 8 years old. Dad of the year moment right here. It's like, you keep your ass in the truck. I don't want to hear you whining out of you. He's like, "Well, I can't stay in the truck. I'm too scared." And so he's out there walking his guts out. And that was the night when I burned my son out on hunting.
Yeah, I mean, when you're hunting with kids, that's why I always say, like, when people are trying to get their kids involved in dog hunting, squirrel hunting, I think, is the best to get kids involved.
I've got tons of good pictures of my kids out squirrel hunting, playing in mud puddles, and
it's action packed. It's during the day. So if you're taking kids out, I think you have to be cognizant of how they're perceiving this sport. So
screw that.
I think you have to keep
they
it
want to
short.
go with me, they better be tough.
Nah. I mean, maybe when they get 13, 14 years old, but in the beginning, I think you have to keep them in action, keep them active, keep it exciting. And I think that's how you get kids into it. So I've seen so many guys who are like deer hunters, and they try to get their kids into hunting. And it's like, okay, you're going to sit here. You're not going to move. You're not going to speak, for hours. And it gets them, that's not most kids' mentality. So it kind of shuts them off. So I think if you're trying to get kids involved, you have to keep them high action, keep it exciting.
I've always said squirrel hunting, coon hunting is like the perfect gateway sport to getting kids involved in hunting.
But I mean, even
if kids want to run over in the creek and throw rocks or whatever, go for it.
Do it. We don't got to be quiet, know. So if you're trying to get kids involved into hunting or more specifically dog hunting, like, keep it where it's action packed and keep it short. It's no different than a pup. So like, if I'm taking a pup out, it's this first 1 or 2 times in the woods, I don't want it to be an 8-hour, endeavor that might end in a hog or not end in a hog. Like, when I'm thinking of a pup, I want to get them on pigs fast, keep it exciting, keep it short, end it.
Get them home.
It's no different with kids. I've always said that training dogs and training kids and training horses
it's all the same.
It's all the same thing.
It absolutely is. I remember one time I was training a little squirrel dog, and we had a little patch woods up the road from the house. It was only the whole woods wasn't 5 acres, and I had my 2 girls with me. They're like, "We're going with you." Okay, let's get in the truck. And I knew it was always different with the girls too, for some reason. I always kind of, I don't know. It was just different for me. But anyway, we go to this little patch woods, and the dog goes in there and gets treed. And I looked at my girls, and I was like, okay, just go towards the dog treat. I'm going to get in there while he's treeing and make sure he doesn't leave. And we'll get there. So I bust in there and get the dog handled and tied up. And I look back, and my two girls, and they were probably 8 and 5 at the time, 8 and 6 maybe at the time. And they're like walking in, holding hands, looking around like they were in the Wizard of Oz or something, like we're not in Kansas anymore, looking
Yeah.
around this woods and stuff. And it was cool. I still remember that to this day. They were like, this is a big adventure for us walking to this tree by ourselves,
Yeah. I mean, with boys,
The
it's a little
world
bit
is so much bigger when you're that age.
with boys, it's a little bit different. So I always tried to. So my boy Eddie is a very logical, like no sense, no nonsense kind of kid. But I always tried to involve him in the hunt by like once again, kind of like old school. Like this is just the guys out. Like we're drinking beer. You're 13. You want a beer? No, I don't want a beer, Dad. I'm like, drink a beer. No, I don't want a beer. Like talking about girls and hunting and kind of like melded into this like kind of macho thing. He never took to it, but I think with a lot of boys it would work. So I think you have to approach it, you know, different.
Yeah. It's you have to. So let's see what Michael Smith's got some wisdom here. You already got it up, man. Keep the sunflower seeds and the deck of cards in the buggy. Keep them busy, and they will stay with it. They get bored, and they will drag up on you. You must be. Are you an oil patch worker? Are you
I mean, like what we're
good
talking about. I
dogs?
mean, it's the same
Yep.
as it's the same as working with pups. If you can work with a pup, or vice versa, if you can work with the kid, you can work with the pup. Like,
The other extreme to that. I'll just go the other extreme of trying to keep them entertained all the time. When I was working, you would go out and you'd check a hunter sitting in a ground blind, and they'd have their kid with them, and it was all set up for them. Everything was set up for the kid. The gun was in a tripod and everything, and Dad's just like all eyes and watching deer and all this other watching for deer and all this other stuff, and the kid's sitting in the corner of the blind back here, and he's sitting there scrolling through an iPad watching
yeah.
Jackass 2 the movie because he didn't want to be there, and you want to keep that kid entertained so he's not disturbing the hunt. That's the total opposite end of it. And I've seen where we try to set this whole thing up to cater to those kids where they haven't earned that,
Yeah.
and then they never take it up because it's always been handed to them their whole life.
Well, I mean, you have to understand that. I mean, a kid that's 11 years old today is a totally different beast than when me and you were 11 years old.
Yeah,
Uh,
a lot of things competing for their attention.
yeah, and they've grown up with a shorter attention span. So I think it's like once again, it's like
Has
the
it been
engineer.
conditioned, or you think it's an evolution type thing?
Well, I mean, it can go both ways. I mean, like you
Man,
remember.
this could take a deep.
Well, I mean, you remember, like, so before cell phones, when we were at a doctor's office and we were sitting in the lobby waiting for our name to be called,
When
we
we were
didn't have.
kids.
Yeah, we didn't have. I mean, not even kids. Like when I was 30, like we didn't have a cell phone to look at to keep us entertained. We sat in a chair, looked at other people, our minds wandered, you know. And kids today just don't know that. Like So it's both conditioning and evolution. You know, I still make a, I mean, it's kind of, it's because I know an earlier time. So like if I go to the DMV to get my tag renewed or whatever, I make a conscious effort, just kind of like as a statement. Like when I go in there, I keep my phone in my pocket and I don't scroll social media or look at whatever, you know,
Yeah.
while I'm waiting. But these, you know, these kids don't know anything different. You know, so when they go to the woods, and that's part of it. Like, so part of the attraction to hunting to me was always so. So I grew up obviously without cell phones and all this distraction. But when I wanted to relax, I would go to the woods, even if it wasn't hunting season. I
Yeah.
would sit down. I would sit down against a tree and just be still and be quiet and wait and like watch wildlife and stuff.
Well, if I didn't go to the woods, if I didn't go to the creek, then in loafing around the house, and that was an opportunity for me to be pulling weeds in the garden, hoeing corn, you know, grinding corn, whatever had to be done. So it's like I'm going, yeah, you know, got a few minutes. I'm running to the creek and gonna build
But
a
I mean,
fort.
I
I'm
think
gonna do this.
a big part of hunting, at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, like when I would go out to the woods and sit down, even as an older person who wasn't, I didn't even know what a cell phone was, but I was still overstimulated, you know, with TV,
Mm-hmm.
radio,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But when I would sit down in the woods, like it would take probably like 30 minutes, but after about 30 minutes or so of just being in relative silence and no motion, no mental stimulation, then you kind of go to this place where a leaf falls from a tree 30 yards from you and your eyes just
Yep.
automatically go to it. You know,
Yep.
it's like a desensitization to like movement stimulus, and uh it kind of grounds me. Like it's I mean it's hard to describe, but
I think all of us in this room that are hunters understand it, though.
yeah, I mean it heightens your senses, like
Yep.
your senses of your visual senses of any kind of movement, your auditory senses of any kind of noise. When you get in that like desensitized state, then every single movement,
But it's not desensitized. It's just sensitized in a different direction.
it's actually, yeah, desensitized is actually not the word. You're totally right. It's actually the opposite of that. It's like hyper
Yep.
centralized
Yep.
to motion, noise, and that always fascinated me.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
So I think when you put that kid in a blind and just hand them a phone or a laptop, they kind of miss that part of it.
100%.
But it's kind of almost necessary in a sense.
Ah,
Not
why?
not necessary, but it's easier. Okay, that's what
Easier. That's the word.
it's
It's
easier.
easier.
Instead of telling
But
that
at that
kid like,
point, who are you out there for? Are you out there for you, or are you out there for them? That's
I
always
mean,
the
you should be
question
out there
that's
for
in my mind.
them. You should be out
Yes.
there for them so that they can enjoy that joy that you found. But it's easier for our generation to find that joy because we didn't grow up with a tablet in front of our face.
Yeah.
But I think kids would benefit a lot more if, I mean, I was going to say if we forced them, but forcing them is really not the answer. But if we somehow, and I failed with my kids, but if we somehow like showed them the benefit of that, like calmness, clarity, and like enjoying nature for what It really can be.
You know, I spend a lot of time. We've spent a lot of time on the podcast, kind of talking about deer hunters, and I gripe a lot about. I gripe about what deer hunting has become. I don't gripe about deer hunting itself. Our firearm season came in this week, and I spent the weekend in the woods, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in the woods, and just like what you were talking about, focused on the natural world, focused on those types of things, watching squirrels and being part of it was really cool. I can tell you that it's a perishable skill because when you're not in the woods and you're not spending time in the woods, moving through the woods in a way that's and when I deer hunt, you know, some guys just they take a buggy or whatever and whatever you want to do, that's fine. But like when I step off from my barn right here and head to the woods, I'm hunting from the time I leave until I get back. So I don't hunt out of tree stands much anymore. Uh, and I enjoy that. I enjoy but it's more about being part of, and I was actually thinking about it when I was out there hunting this weekend. I was like, why am I a foreign object in this world? I'm a part of this world, and I
Yeah.
should be a part of this world.
Yeah.
And so if you feel like you're not a part of it, what am I doing wrong? I don't know. It's a crazy thing. Your mind goes in my mind goes in a lot of different directions when I'm out there. And you know, I had a situation. This is going to sound freaking crazy. I'm just going to. I was hunting deer hunting one time, and I was just sitting on the ground, and I was tucked in this blowdown, and the squirrel came up and it sat. I wish I'd have been more prepared. I've got a picture of the squirrel. It's one of the best pictures I've ever taken with a phone. But he runs up on this blowdown that I'm in, like 3 feet away from me, and he's just sitting there and looking at me. And I didn't move, and I just sat there and looked at him. And before I knew it, there were like 4 or 5 other squirrels moving around me in their woods, in my world. And then when I got up and walked to the top of the ridge, it's going to sound weird, but those squirrels, once they knew I was part of their world and I wasn't preying on them, they weren't
care.
scared of me.
No.
They were moving around me like 10 feet away.
That's
And I was just, it was a surreal,
yeah.
weird type deal.
I totally get what you're saying. Like, so I'm not a big deer hunter. I hunt deer just 'cause I like to eat deer. But so typically, if I'm going to go deer hunting, I don't even bring my phone because I know I'm going to be tempted to look at it.
Yes.
Or so I leave it at home. So, and that's one of the that's probably my favorite part of deer hunting is that I go lean up against a tree and I sit there and I don't move and I become part of nature. Like I see things that I never would have seen before. Like you see things if you sit against a tree for an hour and a half and don't move and don't speak, you see things that you would never see in a million years.
Right.
So like my favorite way to deer hunt. So, well, my favorite way to deer hunt is shoot deer out of the kitchen window. But I mean, if I'm just hunting for meat. But what I really love to do is just go. So if it's towards the end of gun season and I really want a deer, I'll just take my bedroll out in the middle of the woods and sleep. Like I'll go out there about sundown, lay down, sleep, and when I wake up, there will be deer 20 yards from me, you know.
So you go out there the night before?
I go out there the night before and just sleep. I'll sleep in the woods,
Really?
and then I'll wake up a little bit before sunup because I'll hear the movement because at that point I'm so after that long of being out in the woods, I'm so sensitized to sound that I'll wake up when I hear a deer, and I'll sleep with a rifle beside me, and at that point it's just wake up, don't make any herky jerky movements, and just wake up and shoot a deer. But yeah, I'm totally with you. Like that's a huge part of it. Is just being part of nature instead of a dude who's just vacationing in the outdoors.
You know, I'll tell you a quick story. I'm trying to find a picture here of that squirrel. It was a really good picture. But this neighbor of mine that's got cameras all over his property and stuff. I've kind of been on a tear with social media the past few weeks. I've posted a couple things where I guess I don't have a picture of the squirrel anymore. But posted a couple pictures the last few weeks of all these guys that are saying, "Oh, dogs will screw up your deer hunting," blah blah blah. We've got you go across the creek right here. You walk up around the pond. That's where my wife walks every night. She walks those dogs up there every night. Well, from the pond to a trail camera I have is 60 yards max. 60. And an hour after I'm there with the dogs, or she's there with the dogs, I'm getting pictures of huge, good bucks on that camera. And I started thinking about it. It's like the difference between me and my neighbor who lives 70 miles away in a suburb. That guy's worried. He lives in an environment where people get their panties in a wad about blown grass clippings in the street and whose garage doors are up too long and all this other stuff. They don't know how to be neighbors with anybody. But the other thing is I live here. I live among these creatures, this wildlife every day. I know how it interacts. I know what affects them and what doesn't affect them. And when you put camouflage on and you start acting all weird and like you're some kind of predator, a lot of times that makes them that makes deer spooky.
Yeah, they pick up on that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I have deer that come up in my yard, and so when deer come up in my yard in the morning, if I wake up and I'm getting ready for work and I see them, I make a habit of going outside, and I'll just sit where they can see me, but I'll just slip outside and sit and be really quiet. And that was, I can sit there and watch them for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And they don't see me as an outside thing.
Nope. If you're over there, you walk over, maybe you're walking to the grill, maybe you're walking to the dog pen, maybe you're walking over here to do all this, and the deer is standing there watching. Oh, that's it. There's Ed. That's that crazy wild man with the epic beard walking around in his yard. I mean, they don't care.
The main thing that I've noticed, like, so when you're hunting deer, and I've heard old men talk about this. It's not just me, but so if I'm deer hunting, I'm leaned up against a tree and I'm deer hunting. I won't, and I see a deer walk up I want to shoot. I won't stare at that deer.
Yeah.
They can feel that. Like you've had that feel. Everyone out there listening has had that feeling where you're like but like I feel like I'm being watched.
Yep.
Like deer feel that 100-fold. So like if I'm deer hunting and I'm out in the woods.
How many times you been sitting in a restaurant and you look up, you glance up, and you feel like somebody's staring at you?
Yeah, it's just deer.
And then before you know, it's like, why does this guy give me a stink eye?
Yeah.
And then you get all bristled up.
Deer feel that 100-fold. So like if you're deer hunting and a deer walks up you want to shoot, don't stare at that fucking thing. Like it's gonna feel that. Like look off to the side, like catch it out of the side of your eye, and then when you're ready to shoot, then swing and shoot. But I mean that's a I mean you said it, you know, like they can feel an outside force. Like you got to make yourself not feel like an outside force to them.
Yep. Yep. Show, getting back to what you said about staring at stuff. So on the Paloma this year, it was July 1st. I was exercising dogs and had Tough and Zeus. I'd run Shorty up to the dozer, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna road these couple dogs back around. I was just gonna put some miles on the dogs. And they went down there and they struck a track, and they ended up treeing a lion. And Shorty's done all that lion study stuff, and I was trying to videotape this lion in the tree, and that sucker wouldn't stay treed. And I was telling him about it. He's like, man, he said, when you walk into a lion tree, don't make eye contact with them. You know, just don't make eye contact. And I think, I really believe there's something to that.
Oh, I know there is.
Yep. 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 Well, you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, let's hit it. We've had a few questions pop up.
What we got? I think we've hit them, haven't we?
Yeah, Chesson, we kind of already struck on your point. Make it hard for them so they don't want to come back.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael
Yeah.
talks about sunflower seeds. We talked about that.
Yeah, we hit on that.
Yep.
Maybe we have hit them all.
I think we've hit them all. Been a good show, man. I'm glad everybody tuned in. It kind of ran a little bit long.
Yeah,
But
it
good
has.
conversation is good conversation.
Yeah, we talked about a bunch of stuff.
We did.
Bears, women, and kids.
Deer hunting.
If we threw some horses in there, we'd have it all wrapped up.
Yeah, we need to do that sometime. Talk about mule tails. I can tell a story about getting my head kicked off by a mule foal one time.
Well, you're still walking. I know a few other people that aren't.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
thanks for everybody tuning in. Thanks for questions. And if Chris is still on the nicotine pouches next week,
I'm gonna be on them, man. I
we'll
walked
do it
away from it. That's been carrying me through.
Yeah.
I was spending. Hey, this is no crap. It's like if you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it right. I was chewing Copenhagen. It was costing me $70 a week
Yeah.
to chew Copenhagen. $280 a month.
Yeah. Try the what was that you held up? Zen?
No, hell no. Zen
is it?
made donations to the Kamala Harris campaign. I'm not chewing Zen.
What is it? I
On.
can't see it.
These are ons.
I ain't heard of it.
And they're 8 milligram. Tucker Carlson has got a new nicotine patch coming out called ALP. And I've been
Alp?
trying to find some ALP. ALP. I don't
Yeah,
know
I'll
what it stands for. Huh?
I'll chew that if I can get it. But I've been chewing this.
Black Buffalo?
No, it's Rogue.
Oh, yeah. Rogues are good.
It's good.
Yep.
I like it. It's got me cut back I'm probably 75% on Rogue, 25% on Red Seal.
Yep. No, the Rogues, I've used the Rogues before, and they're good. But yeah,
they're just 6, but I put 2 of them in.
Do you put 2 in at a time?
Well, fuck yeah.
I haven't. I'm trying to. I'm trying to get myself down to just the 8. See the 8 on there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get myself down to 8. But
I was buying
so
some at a store a couple weeks ago, and this dude working there was like, "Oh, have you tried?" I bought Rogue. He's like, "Have you tried such and such?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "You gotta try it. It doesn't burn as much." And I was like, "Dude, I'm after that burn."
that's right. You damn right. That's exactly right. It's
I'm
like,
after.
man, there's no burn here.
Yeah, I'm
I
after
haven't
that
tried
burn.
Here's the cinnamon ones right here.
I can't do
Cinnamon.
I don't like cinnamon.
Well, but it had the burn.
If it's got the burn, I might like it.
Yeah, that's why I went with it.
Yeah.
It's like it's got the burn. This is like putting a dip of Copenhagen in my mouth. But yeah, absolutely. It's now one thing I will do is with these 8s, like when the one of them starts petering out, if I'm wanting a little bit of a kick, I'll go ahead and pile another one in on top of it. But I don't put 2 fresh ones in at a time.
I'd try to.
I went from chewing a can and a half of Copenhagen a day to one of these dudes lasting me 3 days.
Yeah.
So, and then I spent all this time. I started trashing my wife, telling her medical secrets, and I started building her up, and now I'll be back trashing her. The other day, she was like, my daughter said, she saw me putting one of these nicotine pouches in. She's like, well, that's just tobacco, isn't it?
No.
And I said, no, it's not tobacco. It's tobacco free. It's just nicotine. And my wife piled on. She's like, he can't just get off of the nicotine. He's got to have a crutch and all this stuff. And it's like, you can't just give me a little bit of credit here and say, I'm glad you're not spending $7-8 a day. And, why can't you just give me a little bit of credit here? I would much rather be stuffing Copenhagen in my mouth right now. I promise you.
I mean, I got to a point, and I've chewed snuff for 35 years, but I got to a point where I really wasn't, and I mean, for most of my life, I enjoyed snuff, but I got to a point where I think I really just wanted the nicotine.
Yeah.
Like the snuff was just like a blood taste in my mouth. It really wasn't what I wanted. So like the straight nicotine patches, I mean, that's what I wanted. Like,
Man, not me. If some dude walked in here with a can of snuff, Copenhagen right now, I'd French kiss him.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's 75% of it, but
It doesn't hit the same.
But still, I mean, I go, I'm hanging around with buddies and they pull a pinch of Copenhagen and I'm still like, oh my God.
Right.
But it's only like
Right.
25% of it.
Yep. Yep.
But, that's the thing. Like, we're 50 years old and they're 25. Like,
Dude, when I was in the Marine Corps, it was Copenhagen all the time. And when I was working, it just, you don't think about it. You like, I catch a stray bullet from the Mujahideen right now, so yeah, give me a lucky strike while I'm chewing Copenhagen. I'm good.
yeah, you can't do that shit forever.
No.
It comes a point where you're like, okay, do I want to die of throat cancer or do I not want to die of throat cancer? And you're not thinking that at 25, but you might be thinking about it at 50.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. Come back next Tuesday.